The desperate call the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with panicked voices as Ambassador Kira, from the peaceful Vallani species, stood before the assembly. Her blue skin had turned pale with fear as she delivered the urgent message that would change everything. "The Ravagers have broken through our outer defenses," she announced, her voice shaking. 3 star systems have already fallen. Our people are dying, and our military forces cannot hold them back much longer. The Ravagers were a brutal species known across the galaxy for their merciless conquest. They showed no mercy, took no prisoners, and left only destruction in their wake. For decades, they had been contained in the Outer Rim territories, but now they were pushing deeper into civilized space. Elder Jan, the ancient leader of the Council, raised his weathered hand for silence. His species, the Korth, had lived for over 2,000 years and had seen many conflicts, but even he looked troubled by this news. "What assistance do you require?" he asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer would be grim. "We need warriors," Kira replied desperately. "Soldiers who can fight the Ravagers on equal terms. Our people are scientists, farmers, and artists. We have never been a military species. The few defense forces we have are not enough." Murmurs filled the chamber as representatives from various species discussed among themselves. Most galactic civilizations had evolved beyond the need for large military forces. Peace had reigned for centuries, and warfare had become almost unknown among the advanced species. "Perhaps the Draknari could assist," suggested one representative. The Draknari were known for their tactical skills, but even they had not fought a real war in generations, or the Zenthi, offered another. "Their technology is advanced," but Kira shook her head. "We have already contacted them. They can provide some support, but not enough ground forces. The Ravagers fight like animals. They use brutal tactics that our civilized species cannot match." The chamber fell silent as the weight of the situation settled upon them. The Ravagers were not just another political problem to be solved through diplomacy. They were a genuine threat that required a response none of the council members were prepared to give. That's when Junior Analyst Rex, a young human who had only recently joined the Galactic Council as part of Earth's new membership, cleared his throat from the back of the chamber. "Excuse me," he said, his voice carrying clearly through the silent room, "but Earth might be able to help." A few representatives turned to look at the human, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed dismissal. Humans were newcomers to galactic society, having only achieved faster-than-light travel 50 years ago. Most species considered them primitive and unimportant. Elder Jan studied the young human with interest. "You believe your species can assist where others cannot?" Rex stood up straighter, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes upon him. "Sir, with respect, most of the species here evolved on peaceful worlds. Earth is different. We call it a death world for a reason. The term death world was known in galactic circles. Planets so hostile that life there had to become extremely tough just to survive. But most council members had never actually met anyone from such a world. What makes you think humans can succeed where trained military forces have failed?" asked Ambassador Kira, hope and skepticism warring in her voice. Rex took a deep breath. "Because we're not civilized warriors, ma'am. We're survivors. Every human alive today is descended from ancestors who fought everything from ice ages to natural disasters to each other just to live another day. We've been fighting for our entire evolutionary history." He paused, looking around the chamber. "The Ravagers might be brutal by galactic standards, but by Earth standards, they're just another Tuesday." The silence that followed was profound. Several representatives exchanged glances, unsure whether to be impressed or horrified by this. Revelation. Elder Jan leaned forward. "You speak of your entire species as if they are warriors." "Not warriors, sir. Rex corrected. Survivors. There's a difference. Warriors fight for honor or conquest. Survivors fight because the alternative is death, and we're very good at not dying. Ambassador Kira stepped forward, her desperation overriding her caution. If there is even a chance your people can help, we must try. Time is running out. Rex nodded solemnly. I'll need to contact Earth immediately. But I should warn you, if we agree to help, you might not like our methods. Humans don't fight wars the way civilized species do. As the session ended and representatives began filing out, none of them could have imagined what they had just set in motion. The galaxy was about to meet humanity in all its terrifying, determined glory. 3 days after Rex's transmission reached Earth, the response came back through the quantum communication array. What arrived at the Galactic Council headquarters was not the polite diplomatic message most expected, but a gruff voice speaking in heavily accented English. This is General Mike Stone, Earth Defense Force. We got your message about some aliens causing trouble. When do we start? Ambassador Kira stood in the communication center alongside Rex and several other council members, staring at the holographic display showing a scarred human face. General Stone looked exactly like what he was, a career soldier who had seen too many battles. General Stone, Rex said formally, we appreciate Earth's willingness to assist, but perhaps we should discuss the details first. The Ravagers are not like anything humanity has faced before. The general's laugh was harsh. Kid, I've been fighting someone or something for 30 years. Doesn't matter if they're human, alien, or little green men from Mars. They bleed. They die. Elder Jan stepped forward, his ancient face creased with concern. General, we must stress that this is not a simple conflict. The Ravagers have devastated 3 star systems. Their brutality is beyond what most civilized species can comprehend. Yeah? Stone's scarred face showed no emotion. Well, they haven't met us yet. Ambassador Kira felt a chill run down her spine at the casual way the human spoke about violence. General, how many soldiers can Earth provide? Soldiers? Stone seemed amused. Lady, you're not getting soldiers. You're getting the Marine Corps. The distinction was lost on most of the aliens present, but Rex understood. He had studied human military history as part of his preparation for diplomatic service. The Marines are different, Rex explained to the confused aliens. They're trained specifically for the hardest fights. Damn right we are, Stone agreed. 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines is already loading onto transport ships. 2,000 of Earth's finest killers, ready to go. The word killers made several council members visibly uncomfortable. In galactic society, taking a life was considered one of the greatest taboos, reserved only for the most extreme circumstances. General, Elder Jan said carefully, we should discuss rules of engagement. The Galactic Council has strict protocols about the treatment of prisoners and civilian populations. Stone's expression darkened. Let me make something clear, old man. You called us because your people can't handle the job. Now you want to tell us how to do it. That's not how this works. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Several aliens shifted nervously as they realized they might have made a mistake. However, Stone continued, his voice slightly softer, we're not monsters. We don't hurt innocents if we can help it. But anyone pointing a weapon at my Marines is going to have a very bad day. Ambassador Kira found her voice. When can your forces arrive? They're already on the way, Stone replied. Should reach the outer territories in about a week. My boys have been briefed on the situation, and they're itching for a fight. What kind of equipment do they bring? Asked a Draknari representative who had been silent until now. Stone's grin was predatory. Everything from knives to nuclear warheads. Though knowing Marines, they'll probably prefer the knives. The casual mention of nuclear weapons sent another wave of shock through the assembled aliens. Such weapons had been banned in galactic warfare for millennia. "General," Rex interrupted quickly, "perhaps we should coordinate with local forces when your Marines arrive." "Sure, kid. My boys will play nice with the locals. But when it comes to fighting the bad guys, we do things our way." The communication ended abruptly, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. Several representatives looked as if they were reconsidering their decision to involve Earth. "What have we done?" whispered one of the Vallani aides to Ambassador Kira. Elder Jan stroked his chin thoughtfully. "We have unleashed something we do not fully understand. I only hope we can control it." Rex looked around at the worried faces of his colleagues. He understood their fear, but he also understood something they didn't. Sometimes the only way to stop a monster was to unleash a bigger one. "They'll get the job done," he said quietly. "That's what matters." In the depths of space, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines was already making final preparations for combat. They had studied the intelligence reports on the Ravagers and were not impressed. The enemy might be brutal by galactic standards, but these were men and women who had trained for warfare since they could walk dot as sergeant. Tom Riley told his squad while cleaning his rifle, "These alien bastards think they're tough? Wait till they meet some real Deathworlders." The Ravager fleet hung in space like a swarm of angry insects, their dark ships bristling with weapons as they approached the mining colony of Petra 7. For 3 months, they had swept through the outer territories, leaving nothing but death and destruction behind them. Commander Vex of the Ravager fleet stood on his command bridge, his massive frame towering over the tactical display. His species had evolved from pack hunters, and their society reflected that brutal heritage. To the Ravagers, might made right, and they had never encountered a species that could match their ferocity. "The colony has 30,000 inhabitants," reported his tactical officer. "Mostly Vallani farmers and miners, minimal defenses." Vex's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Easy prey. Begin the assault." But as the Ravager ships moved toward the colony, something unexpected appeared on their sensors. 3 human transport ships, unmarked and moving at high speed toward the planet's surface. "Unknown vessels, identify yourselves," came the standard. Ravager challenge over the communication channels. The response came back in heavily accented English. "This is Colonel Jack Hayes, 1st Battalion, 3rd Marines. You boys picked the wrong planet to attack." Vex studied the primitive-looking human ships with contempt. The vessels were boxy, functional, and completely unimpressive compared to Ravager warships. "Humans," he growled. "I have heard of this species. Wheat newcomers to the galaxy." "Sir," his tactical officer said hesitantly, "intelligence reports suggest humans may be more dangerous than initially believed." "Nonsense," Vex snapped. "Destroy those transports and proceed with the invasion." The Ravager fighters launched, expecting easy kills. What they found instead was their first lesson in human warfare. The Marine transports didn't try to run or hide. Instead, they turned directly toward the attacking fighters, their defensive turrets blazing. The humans fought with a reckless aggression that shocked the Ravager pilots. "They're not even trying to avoid us," shouted one pilot over the combat frequency. "They're charging straight at our formation." Within minutes, half the Ravager fighter squadron was destroyed, and the human transports had successfully landed. On the planet's surface, Commander Vex stared at his tactical display in disbelief. On the surface of Petra 7, Colonel Hayes was setting up his command post in the colony's administrative center when Ambassador Kira's aide, a young Vallani named Lyra, approached him nervously. "Colonel Hayes," she said, her voice shaking, "we are grateful for your assistance, but the Ravagers will land thousands of troops. You only have 2,000 soldiers." Hayes looked up from his tactical map, his weathered face calm. "Ma'am, it's not about how many you have. It's about how willing you are to use them." The first wave of Ravager troops landed an hour later, expecting to face the same weak resistance they had encountered everywhere else. Instead, they found themselves walking into carefully prepared kill zones. The Marines had spent their landing time not digging defensive positions like conventional troops, but setting up what they called murder holes, concealed positions designed to maximize enemy casualties, while providing multiple escape routes. When the Ravagers advanced on the colony, they found themselves under attack from directions they hadn't expected. Human soldiers appeared from underground tunnels, from rooftops, even from inside buildings the aliens thought were empty. "What kind of tactics are these?" demanded Ravager Captain Drock as his troops took heavy casualties from invisible enemies. "They fight without honor." A human response came over an open channel. "Honor doesn't win wars, alien. Staying alive does." The battle raged for 6 hours, but it quickly became clear that the Ravagers had never faced anything like human Marines. Where other species fought defensively, the humans attacked. Where other species retreated when outnumbered, the humans advanced. Sergeant Riley and his squad demonstrated this when they found themselves surrounded by 50 Ravager troops in the colony's marketplace. Instead of surrendering or calling for backup, Rayleigh keyed his radio and said simply, "Time to earn our pay, boys." The Marines charged. What followed was a brutal close-quarters battle that left the marketplace littered with Ravager bodies. The aliens, for all their reputation for savagery, had never encountered opponents who were equally savage but infinitely more skilled. By the end of the day, the surviving Ravager forces were retreating to their ships, leaving behind nearly 60% of their invasion force. Commander Vex stared at the casualty reports in shock. "This is impossible," he muttered. "No species fights like this." His tactical officer, nursing wounds from a human grenade blast, looked up grimly. "Sir, perhaps we should reconsider our assessment of Earth's military capabilities." As the Ravager fleet withdrew from Vitra 7, Colonel Hayes sat among his Marines, watching the alien ships disappear into hyperspace. Only 37 Marines had been lost in the battle, casualties that would have been considered a victory by any military standard. "Think they'll be back?" asked Sergeant Riley. Hayes lit a cigarette and took a long drag. "Oh, they'll be back. But next time, they'll bring their whole fleet." The news of the defeat at Petra 7 spread through the Ravager Empire like wildfire. For the first time in their species' recorded history, a significant Ravager force had been not just defeated, but utterly crushed by what they had assumed was an inferior opponent. Supreme War Chief Grak, leader of all Ravager forces, stood in his war chamber aboard the massive command ship Blood of Conquest. His scarred hide bore the marks of 100 battles, and his reputation for brutality was legendary even among his own savage people. "Explain to me," he growled at Commander Vex, who knelt before him in defeat, "how 2,000 primitives destroyed an entire invasion force." Vex kept his eyes down, knowing that failure often meant death among the Ravagers. "Supreme Chief, the humans fight unlike any species we have encountered. They show no fear, take impossible risks, and use tactics that ... He struggled for words. That seemed designed purely to kill as many enemies as possible. "You speak as if they are superior warriors," Grak snarled. "Not superior, Supreme Chief. Different. We fight for conquest and domination. A fight for destruction." The distinction was lost on most Ravagers, but Grak was older and more experienced than most. He had spent centuries studying warfare, and Vex's words troubled him more than he cared to admit. "Show me the battle recordings," he commanded. For the next hour, Grak watched footage from the Petra 7 battle, his expression growing darker with each passing minute. He saw human soldiers charge into overwhelming odds without hesitation. He watched them fight with a coordinated savagery that put even Ravager berserkers to shame. Most disturbing of all, he saw humans who were clearly wounded or dying continue to fight until their last breath, often taking multiple Ravagers with them. "This footage," he said slowly, "it has not been altered?" "No, Supreme Chief. This is exactly what happened." Grak dismissed Vex with a wave of his massive hand and turned to his War Council. The greatest Ravager military minds in the galaxy gathered around the tactical display as their leader contemplated the implications of what they had witnessed. "Summon the fleet," he finally announced. "All of it. Every ship, every warrior. We will crush these humans completely and show the galaxy what happens to those who defy the Ravager Empire." Within days, the largest military force in Ravager history was assembled. 300 warships, carrying over 2 million Ravager troops, began moving toward human space. It was an armada capable of conquering entire star systems. The Galactic Council watched this massive buildup with growing terror. Ambassador Kira stood before the emergency session, her face pale with fear. "The Ravagers are mobilizing their entire military," she reported. "Our intelligence suggests they intend to attack Earth directly." Panic filled the chamber as representatives realized the implications. If the Ravagers destroyed Earth, humanity would be extinct, and the galaxy would lose its only effective defense against the alien menace. "We must warn Earth immediately," demanded Elder Jan Rex, now promoted to senior diplomatic liaison after the success at Petra 7, stood to address the assembly. "The warning has already been sent," he said calmly. Earth's response was ... interesting. "What did they say?" asked Ambassador Kira. Rex consulted his notes, then looked up with an expression that was part admiration, part terror. "General Stone's exact words were, 'Let them come.' We've been waiting for a real fight." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. While the rest of the galaxy panicked at the thought of facing the entire Ravager fleet, humanity was apparently eager for the confrontation. The Ravager armada dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system like a plague of locusts, their massive fleet stretching across millions of kilometers of space. Supreme War Chief Grak stood on his command bridge, surveying the blue-green world that had dared to challenge his empire. "It's smaller than I expected," he commented to his tactical officer. "This tiny world produced the warriors who defeated us at Petra 7? Scans indicate a population of 8 billion, Supreme Chief. Their technology appears primitive compared to our own." Grak nodded with satisfaction. "Send the surrender demand. Give them 1 hour to submit, then we destroy every military installation on the planet." The message was transmitted to Earth's leadership, but the response came back within minutes. It wasn't from a government official or military commander, but from an elderly human woman sitting in what appeared to be a simple office. "This is President Maria Santos of the United Earth Government," she said, her voice calm and steady. "Your surrender demand is rejected. We have a counteroffer for you." The image switched to show massive formations of human warships emerging from behind Earth's moon, and more appearing from the asteroid belt. The Ravager fleet suddenly found themselves outnumbered 3-1. "What you see around you, President," Santos continued, "is humanity's true military might. The forces you encountered at Petra 7 were a single battalion of Marines. This is our entire fleet, built over 50 years specifically for this moment." Grak stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Earth's ships were smaller than Ravager vessels, but there were thousands of them, and they moved with a coordination that spoke of decades of training. "Impossible," he breathed. Intelligence reports indicated primitive technology. His tactical officer was frantically scanning the human vessels. "Sir, their ships are detecting our scans and actively jamming our sensors. These are not primitive vessels. The human president's image reappeared. You made a mistake coming here, aliens. You see, every other species in the galaxy evolved on worlds that were kind to them. Earth tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We learned to fight back. The transmission ended, and immediately the human fleet began to move. But instead of forming defensive positions around their homeworld, they spread out in attack formations, advancing directly toward a much larger Ravager armada. They're attacking us? Greg couldn't believe what he was seeing. We outnumber them in ship tonnage 5-1. Sir, his communications officer interrupted. We're receiving multiple transmissions from the human fleet. Put them through. The communication channels erupted with voices, speaking in dozens of different languages, but all carrying the same message of defiance and challenge. This is Admiral Kane aboard the E-SS Vengeance. Today, we show the galaxy what happens when you threaten Earth. Captain Rodriguez, E-SS Defiant. Come on, you alien bastards. Let's dance. Major Wong, Fighter Squadron Alpha. Time to take out the trash. The casual confidence in every human voice sent a chill through the Ravager command crew. These weren't desperate defenders making a last stand. These were predators eager for the hunt. The battle that followed would be remembered as the turning point in galactic history. The human fleet attacked with a ferocity that matched the Ravager's own, but with a tactical sophistication that the aliens had never encountered. Earth's fighters swarmed through the Ravager formations like angry wasps, their pilots pulling maneuvers that should have been impossible. Human capital ships coordinated their attacks with mathematical precision, concentrating fire on single targets until they were completely destroyed. But it was the ground assault that truly broke the Ravager spirit. When their troop transports finally reached Earth's surface, they found themselves facing not just military forces, but an entire population that had been trained for warfare. Civilian volunteers fought alongside professional soldiers. Children as young as 16 operated anti-aircraft guns. Elderly men and women served as spotters and coordinators. The entire planet had become a fortress. Supreme War Chief Grak watched, his mighty armada being systematically destroyed by a species he had dismissed as primitive. In desperation, he ordered the use of planet-killer weapons, only to discover that Earth's orbital defenses were specifically designed to counter such threats. The final blow came when human boarding parties began capturing Ravager ships. The aliens had never faced opponents who could match them in close combat, but human marines moved through their vessels like death incarnate, clearing decks with ruthless efficiency. As his own command ship was boarded, Greg found himself face to face with Colonel Hayes, the same human who had defeated the Ravagers at Petra 7. You came to our home, Hayes said quietly, his weapon trained on the alien war chief. Big mistake. Within hours, the mighty Ravager armada was either destroyed or captured. The few surviving ships fled into deep space, carrying word of their defeat back to the Ravager homeworld. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had announced its presence not with diplomacy or trade, but with the complete destruction of the greatest military threat the civilized worlds had ever known. And in the aftermath, as the human fleet returned to Earth orbit, President Santos broadcast a simple message to the galaxy. Earth is open for business, but we strongly recommend you come in peace.